Welcome to the Frequency Labyrinth. I am Adrienne McDonald, your host. This podcast is for you if you're done with surface level self-help and ready for something deeper and actually transformative. Around here, we work with ancient wisdom, human design, gene keys, and shamanic practices, not as knowledge to collect, but as tools to live by. This isn't about one size fits all. It's about learning to work with your energy, your design, and your life. This is about integration and embodiment. We go deep here with ancient wisdom, practical integration, so that you can develop ironclad self-trust. Let's get into it. Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome back, or welcome if it's your first time. Today, I want to talk about staying off the drama triangle during the holiday frenzy. Now, the holiday season has a way of collapsing time. You can spend an entire year doing profound inner work, building boundaries, learning to trust your human design authority, healing parts of yourself that lived on high alert, and walk into a family gathering and feel yourself being pulled back through time into some sort of emotional posture that you haven't inhabited in decades. Like you're 9 years old, sitting at the kids' table. This is not really regression. It's the nature of re-entering systems that were built around earlier versions of you. And these environments, remember who you were before, you consciously chose who you are today. And that mismatch, it creates an internal friction. And that friction is what makes the drama triangle so easy to fall into this time of year. And the drama triangle is a psychological mold developed by Stephen Cartman. Now, I've talked about this on the podcast before. This triangle describes three automatic roles that people fall into when they're stressed, when they're overloaded, when they're running old emotional patterns: the victim, the rescuer, the persecutor. And these roles are not personality types. They're survival strategies. The victim is someone who isn't weak. It's the part of you that goes into collapse or helplessness when your nervous system gets overloaded. It's an internal retreat designed to create safety through withdrawal. And the rescuer isn't a hero. It's the part of you that wants to manage other people's expectations, emotions, because tending to everyone else once kept you safe. The rescuer is more of a caretaker posture. It's the instinctual urge to anticipate or fix or soothe or mediate, because at some point in your early life, maintaining harmony was how you protected yourself. And the persecutor isn't a villain. It's the part of you that gets sharp or controlling or reactive when vulnerability feels threatening. And the spike of intensity and the need for control and that sharp edge emerges when you feel exposed. And they're all survival tactics built inside different versions of you, previous versions of you. And most people rotate through all of these depending on the situation, the person, the emotional atmosphere. The holidays tend to activate these patterns because they combine unresolved family dynamics and nostalgia and expectation and sensory overload and all the unspoken pressure of the need to reenact a familiar version of yourself. The nervous system responds to emotional memory, not calendar dates. So, that's where the 9-year-old wants to come out. So it remembers how you used to do things, the choreography of the rooms, and the body just reanimates that before the conscious mind has time to intervene in a lot of cases. So no matter how much therapy, healing, or human design deconditioning you've done, the moment that your nervous system is stretched too thin, the body will try to pull you back into whatever role helped you survive in the first place. So now, because we do love a multi-dimensional view here, let me layer in the human design angle without going too deep. Each type has a predictable tell, if you will, when they're drifting towards the triangle. Generators and manifesting generators tend to slide into that rescuer energy because they're responding to every request like it's an obligation. And then projectors tend to fall more into a victim role when they feel unseen or unrecognized. Manifestors jump into a persecutor mode when they feel like they're being controlled or boxed in, and reflectors, overwhelmed by everyone else's energy during these gatherings, can tumble into any of the roles depending on the environment and what it's amplifying. And none of this is a moral failing. None of it means that you're doing it wrong. These are pattern responses your body remembers even when your consciousness is trying to evolve beyond them. Again, this is not failure. This is patterned intelligence. It's that, again, the body repeating what it learned long before you really developed any agency or conscious around agency. So how do we stay off the drama triangle during a season that practically says, come on in? I'm going to go over 3 approaches that I feel like work because they meet you where the pattern originates in your body, in your conditioning, and in your energetic system. And the first is setting your internal orientation before you even step into the environment. Like most people walk into a holiday gathering already braced for certain dynamics, are rehearsing the version of themselves they believe they have to be so they can match the environment. So by the time they arrive, they've unconsciously stepped into some old role. And orientation is the act of remembering who you are today and choosing that person as the person who is leading. Not the child self, not the appeaser, not the fixer, not the controller, the adult self who has agency, choice, and self-trust. This requires a little bit of thinking about, okay, here are my boundaries, here are the hills I'm going to die on, these are my negotiating points, right? So for generators and manifesting generators, orientation means constantly connecting with your sacral and committing not to respond from obligation. And for projectors, it means releasing expectations of recognition and only engaging where there's an actual genuine resonance there. And for manifestors, it means informing upfront, not as like some loud performance, but as a way to, hey, I'm just setting the stage here, setting the ground rules. Reflectors often need to orient around environment quality. Is this really something that you need to participate in? Choosing very intentional exposure and listening deeply to the cues of their body when it's like, I need to step away. And the second is just the way to stay off the triangle is to identify the hook in real time. Now, this doesn't go for just holiday gatherings. This is one of the best tools to stay off the drama triangle all year long. And the hook is the precise moment where the old pattern tries to pull you in. And it's usually subtle. It's a sigh that carries disappointment. It's a sarcastic comment loaded with some history. It's a request laced with guilt. It's an old nickname that makes you feel small. It's the moment where your body feels a shift. It's a slight tightening. It's the inward collapse. It's the urge to fix something that isn't yours. It's the spike of irritation. And most people will only recognize the hook after they've already reacted. But if you slow down time and witness the moment when it appears, even if it's just a pause, that's long enough to change the outcome. Because authority really matters here. If you respond from the hook, you're responding from the past. If you respond from your authority, you're responding from your present self. Emotional authority, you require time. It could be taking a lap. Could be taking a lap around, like I just need to go outside and get some air. Sacral authority requires clarity. It's the gut, but is it gut calm or is it gut? Got to pick. Splenic authority requires stillness. if you've got splenic authority and you feel like that reaction coming up, you really do need to get in your own space and be just in your own aura so that you can reorient from there. Ego authority requires honesty. The moment you reconnect with your authority, the old role loses its grip. So when you are rehearsing, think about the situations that may come up and then tap into your body and say, okay, if I'm fully in my authority, how am I going to react now? Not how did I used to react? Or maybe you do say, this is the way I used to react. This is the way I'm going to react this time. And the third strategy, I think, is also one of the better ones for all year round, and that's the grounded witness. This is a stance outside of the triangle entirely. The grounded witness is not necessarily detached from everything or aloof, but is present, but not entangled, not enmeshed. And it's the version of you that remains connected to your center. It's the version of you that has that spiritual support team around you that is not going to get rattled. It's the version of you that can observe old family dynamics or whatever environment that you're in without reenacting your old part in them. You can empathize without absorbing. You can care without carrying. You can hold your truth without collapsing or defending it. And this stance becomes far more accessible when you understand your own design. Generators and manifesting generators embody the grounded witness through real sacral honesty rather than people pleasing, and also not having the need to prove. Projectors access it when they're stop trying to prove their value and let their presence speaks for itself. Manifestors find it by returning to self-trust rather than being the rebel, so to speak. And reflectors embody it when they trust their sensitivity as information and not a burden. Or, and a lot of reflectors in their families, you can't say anything to this person because they're too sensitive. That's all crap. Your sensitivity is your superpower. Staying off the drama triangle is a body-based practice as much as it is an emotional one. The nervous system gives early signals before the mind catches on. Some people feel it in their breath, a sudden shallowness or holding it. Others feel it in their chest, a heaviness that wasn't there moments ago. The rescuer also often announces itself through a forward leaning sensation, like leaning in. If you feel yourself that you're physically moving towards someone's emotional field. The persecutor can arrive as jaw tension, a bracing in the shoulders, or tightening in the gut. And the victim shows up as, again, an internal collapse, a softening, a slumped shoulders, a sense of shrinking, or the feeling of wanting to disappear. And again, none of these are failures. They're early warning signals. They're invitations to pause and reground and to choose a different response. And human design somatics can deepen this awareness. For generators and manifesting generators, the sacral often goes quiet or heavy when you're about to override yourself. Projectors may feel like a sudden drain, like their energy is leaking out from the bottom of their feet. Manifestors may feel an internal pressure building, especially around the diaphragm. Reflectors feel that emotional climate of the room pressing in their chest or in their stomach, or sometimes even in their back. These clues are not meant to be suppressed. They're meant to be acknowledged as communication. Now, from a shamanic lens, the drama triangle can be also understood as an energetic entanglement. Each role corresponds to a way your power either leaks or collapses or overextends. The victim leaks power through collapse. The rescuer leaks power through overextension. The persecutor leaks power through reactive force. And in shamanic terms, these aren't just psychological patterns, they're soul level imprints shaped by earlier experiences. And sometimes I feel like they're even reinforced by ancestral memory, like depending on if you've got a multi-generational pattern in your family. And during the holidays, we are in a season that's saturated with ritual and lineage and tradition, and that space between the past and the present may feel a little thinner. Old agreements resurface, unspoken contracts to keep the peace comes up, carrying the emotional weight of everyone around you that isn't yours, to disappear when conflict arises, or to harden when vulnerability is unsafe. These are agreements formed in moments where your younger self had limited choices. And the path doesn't necessarily ask you to fight them. It asks you to recognize them as for what they are, echoes, and to see what maybe the message is, to see the energetic choreography without stepping into it or letting yourself being overwhelmed by it or like taken in. Because witnessing is its own kind of medicine, if you will. You're not severing ties with your family or bypassing reality. You're choosing to remain connected to your own spirit while honoring the dynamics for what they are: patterns, not destiny. And the grounded witness allows you to stay fully present and engage without being consumed. And there's one more thing that I also want to bring up before we close out today, because I feel like it's becoming increasingly loud in the personal development and trauma-aware spaces, and that's the idea of going no contact. And let me be crystal clear here. Sometimes no contact is necessary. I've talked about no contact before. Sometimes it's the cleanest, safest, most self-honoring choice that a person can make. There are situations involving abuse and manipulation and addiction and severe instability where that is the only sane option, and the distance is required. There are times where someone in your life has shown you repeatedly that they will not or cannot engage with you in a way that honors your well-being, and stepping away becomes an act of soul preservation. But I'm also seeing no contact used in ways that are less rooted and more reactionary. I'm seeing it become a type of performance, a badge of honor, of supposed boundary mastery, or a convenient way to avoid difficult conversations that would actually require a level of honesty and vulnerability and accountability and an emotional maturity. I'm seeing people bypass their own work that they need to do as a banner of protecting my peace, when what's actually happening is an avoidance of discomfort or unwillingness to acknowledge their own part in the dynamic. And there is a big difference between protecting yourself and refusing to engage with the complexity of being in relationship with other humans. And this matters in this conversation because the drama triangle is fed by avoidance just as much as it's fed by enmeshment. And if someone defaults to no contact the moment tension appears, they're actually not breaking the pattern. They're simply choosing a different exit hatch. And sometimes that exit hatch is necessary, and sometimes it's wise, but other times it prevents the person from developing the internal resilience and emotional clarity required to show up as their adult self. It stops them from building the capacity to witness their triggers, to regulate their nervous system, to communicate their needs, or to hold nuance. And the point of this work is not to eliminate every person who activates your shit. The point is to learn how not to abandon yourself when your stuff gets activated. And from a shamanic standpoint, when someone cuts ties prematurely without doing the inner work, I feel like that just leaves those energetic cords hanging out there. And the threads still pulse with those unresolved emotions and unresolved resentment and fear and shame. And physical distance doesn't sever the energetic entanglement or enmeshment. Avoidance doesn't create sovereignty, it creates fragmentation. And healing comes from healing comes from integration, not exile. So before we rush to the most extreme solution, it is worth asking, is this truly a situation where my safety or my well-being requires the distance? Or am I using distance to avoid the discomfort of being seen or being accountable or being honest? And this is a kind of internal discernment that keeps you off the drama triangle in the long term. Because staying off the triangle isn't about controlling other people or eliminating every interpersonal challenge. It's about building the capacity to stay connected to yourself and the presence of complexity. And noticing when your inner child is trying to make decisions, your adult self is actually capable of navigating with a lot of clarity and sovereignty. So for listeners that want to take this a little further, I always recommend a little self-inquiry that turns unconscious habits into conscious awareness, right? So let's have a few reflective questions. You know how I love a few reflective questions. Number one, when I imagine holiday gatherings, which role in the drama triangle feels the most familiar? And where in my body do I feel that role beginning to take shape? Because this is going to allow you some somatic awareness with that emotional pattern. Number two, what moments do I override my own needs, authority, or truth in order to preserve harmony or avoid discomfort? Like what old agreement might be still running that pattern? And this is going to surface unconscious contracts. Number three, what would it look like in behavior, in boundaries, and in my body for me to stay connected to the adult version of myself this season rather than slipping back into an earlier identity? And this brings the work of the present moment. So it gives those some thoughts. Now, as we close this conversation, I want to remind you of something essential. Staying off the drama triangle has nothing to do with being perfect or transcending your humanity. It's not about having flawless boundaries or executing some enlightened emotional protocol. It's about staying rooted in yourself. It's about trusting yourself, your breath, your body, your authority, your now self in environments that were built around your then self. You'll wobble, and that's normal. Your body may react before your mind catches up. That's human. What matters is that you recognize the moment, you reconnect to your center, you choose from the present rather than react from the past or reenact from the past. And sometimes you'll miss the mark, and that's okay. Just take a breath and try again. The holidays don't require you to perform the roles that once kept you safe. You're no longer bound to the emotional bullshit of your childhood, your lineage, or your past. You get to choose at who sits at the table this year, and you get to choose what tables you want to sit at. So let that be the version of you that knows your worth and trusts your wisdom and honors all the work that you've done, especially this year. 2025 has been, a lot of people have done a lot of deep, deep work. I hope you enjoy the magic of the season. I hope you remember to find beauty every day and seek the magic in the mundane. thanks for tuning in today. As always, take what resonates, leave the rest. Let whatever landed move through you in whatever way it needs to or wants to. And also, if you want to explore more, you'll find more information in the show notes. If this episode stirred something in you, please share it out or leave a quick review. It helps so much and I really appreciate it. And remember, this work is about integration and it always starts with self-trust.